Welcome back for the second part of the FED 5 CLA tutorial. So last time I took apart the top plate, and before that I kind of went through the initial diagnostics stage, and now I am going to try to explain a bit what's going on in this camera. The shutter mechanism is pretty much similar or standard for the Soviet cameras and basically for all Barnack derived rangefinders. So you have the slow speeds escapement, and underneath that you have the actual control disc, the second curtain latch, and so on. Okay. Now, unlike some other cameras like the Zorkis, this part has 3 screws and it's threaded. Since I have already removed the little selector, I will also remove this so it gets out of the way. Okay, and I am also going to remove the slow speeds escapement. 3 screws, 1, 2, 3. You need to apply quite a lot of downward pressure on the screws, otherwise you might strip the heads. Okay, now I'm going to lift the escapement, hopefully without losing the tension. Because I want to see how many turns it will spin. So this was the initial position. This little tip would be facing forwards when installing the camera, and what it does, it pulls back on this secondary latch. So now if I release, I am going to see how many turns this tip will make around its axis. Okay, 1 3/4. All right. Now, pay a bit of attention to this part. So, this gear has some pins. 1, 2, 3 and 4. So it has 4 pins. And when you advance, See, that latch under the advance part will hit the pin and turn the gear. When you release the lever, it skips the pins, and every time it will make a distance between itself, so between the little latch and the first of the pins. And I can measure the distance using one of these screwdrivers. This one has 2.5 millimeters and it's too wide. I'm going to try this one that has 2 millimeters, and it's a snug fit. When reinstalling this gear, if you are not allowing for this precise spacing, you will either lose the ability to have this free play in the lever without actually cocking the mechanism, or if you install it, let's say, with this pin just behind the pole, it means that it will go pretty much up to here without actually moving the gear. So that means without cocking the shutter, without advancing the film. And basically you wouldn't be able to cock and advance, or advance and cock the shutter in one motion. You'd have to do one full strike and a bit. So this is very important to keep in mind, that you need a little gap, but this is about the amount of gap that you should have, 2 millimeters in this case. All right. I'm going to take off the advance lever again. And in order to remove this part, you'll have to remove this C-clamp, which is pretty easy because it's a big one. So less risk of it jumping around. Okay, the C-clamp. And now this can be lifted, but it has this spring, and that spring is attached to this point. So it makes a loop and then goes around this sort of a bracket and behind the post, the shutter release post. So in order to take it off, you will need to remove this clamp. So you have one screw here, and right now this elliptical hole or cutout has the right edge just right of the screw hole. That's also good to keep in mind. But it's not really important. You can pretty much shift it around until it fits you. All right. Next, I'm going to remove this, which is the contact for the flash. It only has one screw. It's plastic made, and it has this little plastic pin that goes in this hole. So this is the threaded hole, and this is the hole for the pin, which gives its orientation. All right. And next would be this thing. Actually, you can swing it away, and this gear is going to be free. Okay, now this part, when you are when you have a cocked shutter, let me see if I can advance it like this. If you push down on this part just below the shutter release, let me see if I can show it better. So that part has a screw here. This bit presses against the screw because it is spring loaded here. When you push down on this collar, normally this would go like this. I don't know if you can see. So this goes to the right of the camera and stops against the shaft and basically traps that screw below or underneath it. And that is why this one is now free to turn and everything is locked in place. You would have to actually wind the camera again in order to release this, because when you wind it, this gear will start turning, and when it turns, one of these pins pushes against this part and releases the collar. So that is the purpose of this thing. And I will also remove it. Okay, so basically you have the piece itself. It has a shim on top of it. Then you have a C-clamp that kind of moved away, the shaft and the spring. Okay, and then this gear, I don't remember this gear. I mean, I don't remember how to take it off. We'll get to that. Alright, now on this part, first of all, a whole bunch of spacers, like 6 of them or something, that should go here. And then you have this weird thing that actually is what keeps this little tab pressed down. So this tab sits like this when the back door is removed, and is being pushed upwards when the back door is reinstalled. And when that happens, it moves this little thing like this. And it's what engages with this little piece. Okay, so that's the mechanism for resetting the frame counter. Now I don't really need to take it off. In order to take it off, if you want to take it off, you have one screw here and you also have one screw here. But keep in mind that this part, so the spring, is one piece, and it has this fork shape. The inner leg, or I don't know how it's called, let's say leg, the inner leg of this fork goes beneath both of these two little bits. The outwardmost leg goes on top of them. So basically one of them pushes them upwards, the other one pushes them downwards, something like that. But if you remove this screw, you will see that there are two pieces. So you have one piece here and another piece here. You'll need to memorize how they stack together. All right, I'm not going to remove it. I don't think I have to. I will only remove this. So this is the clutch mechanism. It's the take-up spool and a screw, two shims on either end of the center spring. Okay, and if you want to remove this gear, well, I don't remember. Maybe yeah, if you take out this let's see, I really don't remember. I will take out this screw. See, so it has an L-shaped piece and another kind of L-shaped piece that stack together like this. So the bigger one goes towards the shaft, the smaller one goes towards the other side. And now I still can't remove it. I was hoping that this pin would go kind of through and lock it in place. Maybe it's because of the latch. So now I'm going to remove the little latch, this one, that keeps the entire system from spinning back when, yeah, that was it, when you have the camera loaded or armed. There it goes. All right. And I can also remove this gear now. Okay. Going further and disassembling this part is a bit tricky. I don't even know if I know how to explain why it's tricky, but it is tricky. I will try to get rid of the rangefinder first, just to know that it's out of the scene. Not that it would have anything to do with that, but I just want to clean up a bit. Okay, and in order to be able to remove it, I will also need to remove this post. And 2 of the 3 screws are accessible, so this is one, because I can't turn it around, I can't shift it because of that post. So this is one, this is the other. And the third one is hidden in a very awkward position. I'm not really sure how they did it. I mean, it's possible that they used no, actually what you can do is remove the shutter, and with the shutter removed, when this part is gone, you can access more easily the screw that keeps the rangefinder arm in place, and when that is removed, this whole thing just comes off. Now I don't know if I can, I will try if I can remove that screw from here. Okay, and now I will jiggle the arm somehow. That's why shortcuts are not the best idea, because taking shortcuts sometimes mean losing more time, risking more damage. There it goes. So now that I have the rangefinder arm taken out, I can simply lift this out of the camera. Okay, and now if I really want, I can remove the third screw from that post, and at the reassembly stage I will just make sure that I put them back in the correct order. Alright. Well, I will do something else. I will remove the shutter, meaning the shutter crate, and I will return to this part at the end. I think it's the better idea. Now, removing the shutter crate also means removing these parts, obviously. And removing these parts is a bit trickier because there is a spring inside of this shaft, and I don't really know how they put it in nicely, but it's not so easily removable. First of all, there is a C-clamp on top. A little shim and a spring. Alright, and now if you are trying to lift this, you can't, but it will try to unwind. Now let's assume a released state of the camera. No, a cocked state. A cocked state because then I can choose whatever shutter speed I want. And right now I am at, what shutter speed is this? I can't go any further than that, and that means this is 1/30th of a second. This one should be bulb. I can still test that it's bulb by keeping the second latch pressed in and now releasing the shutter. Okay, so rewind or recock, set it to 1/30th, and now lift and slowly let go. So it needs to go high enough that it goes over the little lip of the control disk. So up, and it goes one full turn and a half. So when you reinstall it, you need to apply 1.5 turns of counterclockwise tension on that inner spring. Okay, and the spring is attached here, and it's also attached here in this hole. But on that hole, if I remember correctly, it goes all the way through. Let me see. Yeah, so if you try to pull it out, you might be bending it. So I think the best option, actually I don't even know if the best option would be to take it out from this slot. No, there it goes, and it's out. Putting it back would be another nice little challenge, but we'll get to that in due time. Okay, Now the rest is pretty much straightforward. You have this screw that keeps the control disc in place. I need to clean the table because I am out of space. Okay. The disc, now it is in cocked position, and that little lip points towards the left of the camera. That is good to know because it's a bit different from the others. Okay, second curtain ledge. And I will also need to remove the secondary ledge because there's one screw underneath it, and that screw keeps this top light shield in place, but no, it's not essential right now. It's not essential, we can do it later. Okay, so basically, if I remove these two screws, the entire shutter assembly should be removable, and obviously the 4 screws on the front, but yeah. Okay. But let's also take out this little shield. This screw, I think it's misplaced. Because it's not straight at all. Alright, so before removing the shutter, there are a couple of things here. This thing is both first curtain latch and first curtain brake. So when you wind the camera, I'm keeping it like this because it's easier to wind. This little thing that is attached to the shaft, so the first curtain, goes like this, and then this thing drops and it catches that little tip. So it basically acts as a secondary curtain latch. The first curtain latch is actually this little guy. Although basically this one is a film latch, it doesn't allow for the film to wind back. And this one stops, latches the actual shutter. When you release, this spring plate goes up and pushes on this spring, and basically that little tip is lifted and the curtain is allowed to spin freely. When it hits this part, it will touch here, push this aside and stop here. So this part won't allow it to bounce back. They are both adjustable, so the position is adjustable. That's why you have paint on the screws. If I don't have to take it off, I won't, but I'll see. And this one is actually the limiting, not the limiting, is the little part that limits the motion, because you can only go from here when this part of the gear hits against this little plate, and you can go all the way to here when it limits the motion again, because this part of the gear stops against the plate. All right. Okay, let's try to take the shutter assembly off. I will also need to remove the spring plate, so it can free the connecting gear. Alright, so this is the shutter. This is the connecting gear that didn't really need to come off, but I don't know what was binding. Spins pretty nicely. Okay, and we have the self timer, this little part of light shield that needs to be replaced, and the curtains. All right. I don't really know how this gear is kept in place. It might be simply clamped together in a way, because there is this little like hole here, but there's nothing underneath, so it's like maybe they used a kind of wedge to secure it in place. I don't know, but I will just leave it like that and try to lubricate it on spot. I might also try to do the same for this part, because I'm honestly a bit reluctant to remove it. As I said before, the last time I did, it was quite a challenge to get it back correctly, because there is this little guy. Let me see if I can. So in my case, in the other camera, I reached a point when I could not depress the shutter button at all, because this thing that goes inside this cutout was engaging um, the profile of the shaft inside, which is not circular, but it's like a circle that has a flat surface. And whenever that flat surface came around and in this area, this thing would go down and lock the motion, the ability to depress the shutter button, because it wasn't a straight cutout from top to bottom on that circular shaft. It was like an actual cutout. It's probably making no sense, but yeah, I remember struggling. And something like this. See, it only goes down this much. Yeah, I can replicate it now. So in order to release the shutter, this needs to go a bit more towards the bottom of the camera, so this pin can be free to spin around. Right now it hits on this pin, and I can't press it any more unless I manually pull on this guy. Come on. Like this. See? Now it's free to spin. And it made no sense to me as to what, and it doesn't really make sense now either. So it allows you to push the button down once every turn. Okay. Fuck it, let's do it. So first of all, I will remove the sprocket shaft. Well, this is what happens when you don't have enough experience with a certain design, because I can totally disassemble a Zorky 1 in like 25 minutes or so. 40 minutes for the Zorky 4, and it might take me a lot more on a Fat 5 just because um, I don't have the experience yet. Okay, so there is a flat blade here. And that is what locks. So this is the profile. It's a half circle on a section. If I turn it while pressing on the shutter button, at some point it allows the shutter button to go down. Okay, so I guess in my case this was not engaging correctly in this. Yeah, probably that was what was going on. Okay, and in order to remove this, I will have to remove this little screw. And also this one. And also this. Okay, phew. Yeah, this was a bit tricky because of that little spring. It was kind of catching in the screw somehow. Anyhow, it is done, and I think there is also this, and this goes like this. Okay, and right now I could in theory also remove this gear by using two screwdrivers, but something big like this. One on the top, one on the bottom. This one is good for the bottom, but I need a wider one for the top. So you have a slot there and a slot here, and they should unscrew, allowing you to remove and clean this gear. Still no solution for this one, and no solution for this gear other than prying this part off, which I'm not going to do because it was pressed in place, so it's not worth it. I will just lubricate it as much as I can without. And the same applies for this one. I could simply just lubricate it. Every time I tried to remove something like this in a Fed 2, I kind of failed. The two parts were so tightly joined that the first time I tried, I think it was a Fed 2, I actually bent these two little hubs. So I'm not going to do that. I will simply use some lighter fluid to clean it as much as possible, and then try to re-lubricate it as much as possible, probably with some oil and moly powder, because obviously I can't get grease inside, but it should be enough. Okay, sorry for the longer video and for the hiccups. Again, this is the second time I'm working on a Fed 5. The principle is the same, it's not a super complicated camera, but it has its quirks. And yeah, if you don't do it regularly, you need to pay more attention to each step. I will start cleaning stuff up and reassembling the advance or the film transport mechanism before going to the shutter part, so I can clean up a bit here without getting everything in an organizer and so on. I would rather just clean the parts I just removed and place them back. What I might do is clean them, have them cleaned, and then reassemble them in the third part. So taking them apart is many times a lot easier than putting them back together. And that's what I'm probably going to do, including getting the rangefinder back while the shutter crate is out. Okay, thank you. Hopefully in the next video we'll have better and more cheerful attitude. See you.